Hello everyone, this is TheNelston. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm here to talk about the Beta 4 update of the 3.0 Rebirth of the Night update. Before I kick off this video, I just want to remind you guys, of course, as with any other Rebirth of the Night betas, a world reset is highly recommended. However, what's new about this beta is that because there are no new world gen mods, you can actually play on previous worlds. It's just that some of your items are going to be a little bit corrupted, some of them might be missing. But yeah, you can continue playing on your beta 3 worlds if you want to. So before I get into the specific new features, let's talk about some of the mods that have either been replaced, changed, or removed. The first thing that's been added is the random portals mod, and this replaces Nether Portal Fix. Simply Hot Springs has also been added. Name Pain has been replaced with RotN Tweaker. Rats has been replaced with a custom fork called RotN Edition, and this includes a Plague Effect rework. Gambling style has also been added, so if any of you play 1.14 or above, you'll know that the villagers have a really cool trading system that has been added into Rebirth, so now you can do easy trades. Growthcraft has been added, and this replaces rustic alcohol as well as some other stuff. Vials have also been added. This adds a pipette, which can transfer 1 millibucket of liquid. Interactions and recipe stages have been added. These two are kind of like Modpack developer tools. Loading screens and tips have been changed, so now tips change every few seconds regardless of the loading progress and speed. And there are custom loading screens for switching dimensions or loading worlds. Charset tools and engineering has been added, as well as charset transport. So tools and engineering affects like redstone kind of stuff, and charset transport adds stuff for minecarts. And finally, one of the bigger things, especially for people like Niyagi Neko, Project Red has been removed and has been replaced with simple logic, and redstone paste has also been removed. Niyagi, I believe she's going to be making a video about all the different redstone components that are available in Rebirth of the Night. So if you're interested in checking that out, learning how to automate different cool things, I will leave a link for the video in both the description and the pinned comment once that's done. Now let's go ahead and dive into the main part of this video, the new stuff that you're all waiting for. The first thing that's been changed is the plague. So do you remember how dangerous the plague was in the past? Do you remember how you couldn't heal, and if you got it, you were basically dead if you were in the beneath? Well, don't worry, it's even worse now. The plague is now divided into 4 stages, and the plague worsens by 1 stage every 2 minutes that it is left uncured. So in stage 1, healing rate and effectiveness of healing items are reduced by 50%. So you can still heal, you won't die immediately. That'll be nice. In stage 2, all forms of HP regen are completely blocked. This is kind of how it worked previously, so hopefully this isn't too much of a shock. But after that, oh boy, stage 3 is when players occasionally take damage over time. So you're going to take some damage every now and then from the plague, but it's not going to kill you necessarily, right? You're just going to take some damage, but like I said, you can't heal. So this is permanent damage until you cure it. And finally, stage 4. Just like cancer, this is the most deadly stage. In this stage, you will get consistent damage until you die. The plague effect will end upon death, but when you respawn, your maximum health will be reduced by 2 entire hearts until you consume a healing stone from the Aether. Let me repeat that. If you die while having stage 4 plague, even after you respawn, you will be losing 2 hearts permanently until you consume a new item. Yeah, you better cure this stuff fast. Oh, and did I forget to mention? Death no longer cures the plague effect. You can't just kill yourself to get rid of the plague. You will respawn with the stage that you died in, unless of course it is stage 4, in which case the aforementioned effects that I talked about will be applied. And finally, a minor consolation, you could say, is that the plague effect will now no longer infect enemies through shields. The next thing that's been changed are magic add-ons, and these are, wow, this is a big list. Now the first thing that's been added is the new bauble Obsidian Skull. This bauble will grant fire resistance 1 for a short time whenever you take fire damage, so now you will not just burn to death immediately. And there are also new amulets, so these are things that you wear in the necklace slot, and these are the Thorn, Panic, Flame, and Wrath pendants, of course, as well as the other Sin pendants that have already been added. Now this grants various effects when worn. There's a new bauble that's been added, the Snorkel, and this just grants permanent underwater breathing. Pretty simple, pretty nice, just a good thing to have when you're exploring the ocean. There's also another new bauble called the Magma Stone, and kind of like in Terraria, this gives all melee attacks fire damage, so now you can apply fire aspect to pretty much all weapons or tools that you have, regardless of whether or not they actually have the enchantment. And building off of that, there's now a new bauble called the Fire Gauntlet, which is made with the Magma Stone. Now this gives melee attacks fire damage and also boosts attack speed and damage. So just a really good thing to have. But of course, as you can expect, the recipe is not cheap. Blank charms have also now been added, and these have a source, so now you can actually obtain them. You can get them through crafting, which is a temporary solution until more sources are added, so don't expect to have that for too long, or via bounties that you complete in villages. And blank charms are used to create a large variety of charms, which, like before, protect you from certain types of damage. So, for example, fire charms would protect you against fire damage, wither charms would protect you against wither damage, you know, just basic stuff. And of course, these will break when you get that protection, so it is not a permanent solution. Quintessence pouches have also been added, and this is just a pouch to hold all of your quintessences. So yeah, you don't have to have these loose in your inventory anymore, you can put them all in a nice and neat place. And lastly, there are more cut gems, for example, Draconium. You can use these in a variety of recipes, and I would highly recommend checking out JEI to see what you can do with these amazing new materials. There's also a new villager, the Builder or Nailer. Hopefully not of your mom. They sell small metalworking, nails, and fasteners, and some SFS artifacts or Soulforged Steel artifacts, which can be melted down in a crucible in order to get yourself some liquid SFS, or Soulforged Steel. Growthcraft, as I mentioned earlier, has been implemented, and this just does a bunch of new stuff to replace some of the things in Rustic. So for example, grapes, chilies, and tomatoes from the Rustic mod have been removed, and they've been replaced with the Growthcraft stuff. Basic brewing recipes are now made in kettles as well, and Rustic brewing barrels have now been replaced with fermenting barrels. And there's a huge new range of new alcohols and other possibilities that you can brew in the brewing barrel to have a good time. So yeah, like I said, several alcohol types, and you can test these out to kind of see what they do. I will also make a new and updated guide on alcohol brewing because unfortunately my old Rustic guide is no longer accurate. There's a new fish trap that can automatically fish for you if bait is provided, and this just uses the same bait as a fishing rod. So go ahead, press U on a fishing rod, see what kind of stuff you can attach to the end, and you can use that in the fish trap. Fruit presses have also been added, and now you can use them to create the respective juice types for, you know, like apple juice and things like that. Juices can also be made at the crushing tub since the press is a little bit harder to craft. Grapes and rice have also been replaced by variants from this mod, so breaking tall grass now drops all drops that are grass in real life. So rice, barley, wheat, that kind of stuff, they're all dropping from tall grass now. And rice can only be planted on rice paddies. Hunter illagers and isolagers, yes, from the mob vote, have been added to the mod pack. So hunters rarely spawn in huts in plains biomes with their own beds, and isolagers are masters of unique ice magic and will cast it at the player if they get too close. I am so unbelievably happy that this has been added. Coal gas now also spawns underground. These appear around y=20. They're guarded by lignite beds, and they are the only source of this stone type, so that's pretty cool. They are extremely toxic, just like in real life. Almost as toxic as a League of Legends lobby, but not quite. Any torches or sources of fire will cause a massive explosion if there's more than a certain amount of carbon gas. There are some redstone and char set changes as well. Stopwatches and signal meters have been added, and these basically measure, if I'm not mistaken, the amount of time it takes to process a single redstone signal, so very useful for diagnosing some issues within your redstone machines, as well as keeping track of how fast things are operating. You can now also dye minecarts by right-clicking on them with the appropriate dye, so you can have colorful minecarts. Red stuff trademarked, that's what it says in the changelog, has also been added. And this is an experimental product created accidentally. Because it's experimental and it seems to be pretty secret, I'll let you guys figure out what it does. There will not be wires from Simple Logic. They will be replaced by the charset cable counterparts. Gates are now replaced with charset gates. Unfortunately, some gates didn't really get transferred, but the charset gates do have some nice features to them. The gate recipes are also not cheaper. They cost the exact same amount, so not much of a change in that front. And finally, JEI descriptions for gates have not been changed yet, and they may unfortunately be outdated, so do keep that in mind. And finally, the last feature that I am the most excited for, portal changes. I'm really happy about this because I did make this, a little bit of flex there, I guess. But yeah, I added the random portals mod. It was accepted as a pull request. So now there's a huge amount of stuff you can do with Nether and Aether portals, and hopefully this will also be extended to Twilight Forest portals in the future, although we will have to work on that a little bit. The first thing that's changed is that Nether and Aether portals can now be various other shapes and sizes. So for those of you who saw the portal on its side, right, the 3 wide, 2 tall Aether portal, that can now be made in the game. And the default size is still the minimum, so you still do need at least 10 pieces of either obsidian or glowstone to make the portal. But you can go larger, you can go horizontal, you can make an end portal, but Nether portal. or Aether Portal. It's just great times, you know, great times all around. Portals can now also be dyed using vanilla dyes. So Aether Portals and Nether Portals now both have this functionality. Unfortunately, this does not apply to Twilight Forest Portals yet, but we'll have to wait on that one. So yeah, you can make trans portals now. Trans rights. Some portals now also have special sounds when you open them. This is not fully implemented yet, unfortunately, but now when you open portals, you will have cool sound effects. So they're not just like those boring basic light of flint and steel and it just pops up without sound effects. It'll sound rich. Portals can now also spawn other types of mobs now, so you may want to keep your portals a little bit more secure. This isn't fully implemented yet, it's not been done, but if you have any ideas for suggestions for mobs that might spawn from portals, or you think that this feature should be buffed or nerfed in any way, make sure to drop a suggestion in the main Rebirth of the Night Discord. This mod also replaces Nether Portal Fix by implementing similar changes, and Nether and Aether portals should now link up pretty similarly with the overworld portal coordinates based on their respective ratios. So the Aether is 1:1 with the overworld, and the Nether is of course 1:8 with the overworld. Do keep in mind this is not perfect, because what this mod does is it looks for any portals within 64 block radius, and if they do exist, then it won't create a new portal. This stuff, I should also mention, is completely configurable in the settings. Next up, let's talk about some of the tweaks and miscellaneous things that have been added to make the mod pack more fun. The first thing is that durability loss on death now varies by difficulty. So on easy mode, you have 0% durability loss. On normal mode, you have 5%. And on hard mode, you have 10%. I think it's a pretty good change. Food now no longer restricts the stack size based on the hunger it restores. This is just, oh my god, you have no idea how big of a change this is, because in the past, marshmallow roots used to be the undisputed king of food. There was just nothing better than marshmallow roots. Scaffolding from Cyclic has also been removed. The changelog message I quote here is, "Shame on all of you that abuse this." There's now also a chat message that appears whenever you collect logs to remind you to read your guidebooks. Healing stones also now have the recipes change in order to make it accessible. Dodging now also grants you a very short duration of invulnerability against mob attacks, so if you dash into something, you won't immediately just die. Double tap sprint is re-enabled. There's a whole like flame fest about this earlier on the Rebirth of the Night Discord. So fortunately, the double tap sprint is now re-enabled. The dodge key has been changed to left alt, or for some people, left menu. The stash max stack capability, boy, that's a mouthful, has been increased from 32 to 48. And if my math is correct, that would be exactly 3,072 items instead of what used to be 2,048 items. Doors are now also harder to burst through, so you won't just like immediately slam them down if you walk into them. Troll spawn rates have also been decreased so that you won't just get like a troll everywhere you go in the darkness. You'll actually be able to see them and fight them, hopefully not as commonly as before. And I really like this change because troll armor is blatantly overpowered. I still believe that troll armor should just either be like nerfed to the ground or removed, because regeneration 2 on any armor is just busted. Killing a boss or entering a dimension now also no longer triggers all previous game stages. So let's say you accidentally entered the Beneath, you will now no longer trigger all the previous game stages. You will only trigger the specific one for the dimension that you entered or the boss that you killed. There are many new guidebook additions as well as changes, so be sure to go check that out if you haven't already. Goblins with maces are now gated after the Beneath instead of the End, so they do spawn a little bit earlier, unfortunately, but the Beneath I do believe is not mandatory for going to the End, so if you don't like goblins with maces, just don't go to the Beneath. There are more food recipes now, so you can make more food recipes. And I haven't actually gone through and checked which specific ones are new, but of course, if you are a cook or a chef, feel free to go through and cook to your heart's delight. Steel things can now be recycled in the Crucible, similar to other materials. So now you can remake steel stuff, which is very great. Soulforged steel and mithril things now also return 66% of their materials when broken down. Crafting mats have been changed to now be a GUI instead of an in-inventory kind of thing. So yeah, you don't have to worry about inventory clutter anymore. You can just open up a portable crafting table. Rainbow bricks can now also be used for the refractory structures. Ingot textures have also been revamped. Shout out to LNI, and yes, that is the dev of LNI Dodge, which is used in this pack very prominently. Plate armor also now uses soulforged steel plates instead of soulforged steel ingots, which are, of course, significantly cheaper. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. Charcoal blocks now, unfortunately, no longer infinitely burn, and coal blocks burn approximately as long as charcoal blocks. So no more infinite crucibles or cauldrons until you go to the Nether. Kind of a bummer, but I do understand that this change was kind of necessary for game balance, although for me personally, I feel like this change is not the best thing in the world. I understand why it was done, you know, for game balance, right? And to make sure that there was an incentive to actually replace things with netherrack. And last but not least, we have magic changes. Compy's favorite thing. Obsidian skulls have now been renamed to draconic skulls, and this is now a late game bauble with potent fire resistance effects. So it used to be kind of like a mid-game type of item. Now it is a late-game bauble that you craft using dragon components, and it has very strong fire resistance effects, so definitely go for that. Magic tier tooltips have also been added for various items, so you can kind of see what's up with that, see what tier it is. If you don't know what I'm talking about, scroll down a little bit in the changelog and you'll see the different tiers of Dunamis. New recipes have also been added for the Draconic Skull because of course the item itself has been reworked. There's a new recipe for the Cobalt Shield, and Cobalt Shields have now also been replaced by the Artifacts one and is less powerful than the previous version. So now it no longer gives you 100% knockback resistance, which it used to do. Colored names for various magic items have also been added, so now you have very beautiful names. Mortars also now produce Vispecs at a 10% higher rate across the board, so you won't have to grind up like a billion pieces of dirt to get a single Vispec anymore. You can actually get them at a reasonable rate. Several old and powerful bauble recipes have been disabled, and these will be later added as super late game content. So for now, they're not available, but hopefully in the future they should be. Sunglass baubles have also been changed so that they now use magicked lenses. This is just kind of a small thing to make sure that they're a little bit more difficult to obtain, and I completely agree with this change because sunglasses prevent you from getting blindness, which doesn't seem like that big of a deal until you realize that blindness actually stops you from sprinting. So yeah, it was a pretty big debuff, and I'm really glad that the thing that protects you from ever getting that debuff is more difficult to obtain. Last but not least, more wood options have been added for wand bases and mundane things, as well as arcane wood ore digs. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Finally, let's go over some of the bug fixes and things that have been updated to make Rebirth a little bit more enjoyable. The first thing is that quite a few mods have been updated, which fixes some bugs and crashes. The two kind of notable ones are that Foundry has been fixed, so now the fuels in the heater actually give the proper heat level, and stoke fires actually give consistent heat now, so you can use those systems properly. Diamond haunted weapons and tools no longer spawn so that people can't get them right away. The harvester should now properly drop its scythe 100% of the time. The Lunar Edge 1 on the scythe has also been buffed to Lunar Edge 2. Dimension stack fixes have also been added. The Nether now generates bedrock both on the top and the bottom, and barrier block 0 has been fixed, so it should no longer throw any server errors. Orc and pigment spawn rates have been edited a little bit to make sure that they're not as annoying anymore. Fortune effects on the Peridot armor set have also been fixed, so that now if you mine trees or do anything else like that, you should get the proper amount of wood and other resources. Concrete duping with the soaking pot has been removed as well, maybe to the detriment of some builders, but it is balanced now. Metal blades and enchantment table recipes have also been fixed. Nailed planks burn properly, unfortunately. I guess it's kind of a fix. It should have been that way in the previous beta, but now they actually burn. They have textures and they can be made using nails on planks, which consumes 1 charge on the nails. So now the nails aren't actually consumed in the recipe, they just lose 1 durability, which is, you know, pretty good, right? You don't have to use as many nails anymore. Recipes using the carving knife have been fixed, because now all durability knives will be accepted. Turntable recipes have also been updated, but it is still a little bit buggy potentially, so make sure to keep an eye out for that. Skyroot and Zanite door textures have also been improved and fixed. Shovels that are made out of gems no longer have doubled stats, so they're not blatantly overpowered, and hoes actually have stats now too, so they're useful. Hoes are useful. Strange movement on the biomes of plenty blocks like ash, mud, and all those kind of things no longer occur. This was caused by aqua acrobatics. And finally, in my opinion, the last changes of notable importance are the magic fixes. So the first thing that's been changed is that this item soaked in lunar water now convert at a 1-to-1 ratio as expected. There used to be an issue where I think you could be like duping them or they were not converting properly. The water cost and time has been adjusted to compensate for this change. There is a new stand-in fix for butterflies until something more permanent has been added. What you can do is you can craft any caught butterfly by itself to produce a butterfly with no NBT data, and this will work in the mortar. The mending dupe on wand powder pouches have been fixed as well. You can no longer actually put mending on your pouch, get more powder like that. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but again, like I said, fixes and balance, right? And finally, the last thing is that arcane focuses have been fixed. so that they're no longer able to suck up barrier blocks. It used to be that they would vacuum up the barrier blocks and kind of like you could have them. Now that no longer happens, they just delete the barrier blocks. Alright, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them down in the comment section below and I'll gladly answer them whenever I get a chance. Leave a like if you liked the video, leave a dislike if you hated it, subscribe for more content like this, and as always, I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.